Hi, it's Benjamin Douglas Ray with another edition of Sustainable Cannabis TV. I'm here with Jerome Crawford. He is in the legal department at Plesantrees, and you can talk about your title a little bit more there, but legal social equity at Plesantrees, welcome.
Ben, appreciate you having me here. Thanks so much for this opportunity. We're excited to join you.
Thank you. So what is your title there, and what do you do at Plesantrees?
Yeah, great question. So my title is I'm the Director of Legal Operations and Social Equity for Plesantrees.
Okay.
And first, tell about Plesantrees and a little bit about my role. Plesantrees is a startup in the cannabis industry here in Michigan. We are vertically integrated, completely seed to sale. Core competency is cultivation, with our CEO being one of the original caregivers here in the state of Michigan back in 08, 09. That led into 2018 after he was able to round up some investment in forming Plesantrees. And so we do everything we say vertically integrated. That means we have cultivation, we have processing, and we also have retail stores, most recently in East Lansing and Hamtramck. My role is, again, a bit of a hybrid of sorts, right? So as the title probably suggests. So legal operations, what that means is all things legal related could come under my purview. I work in that function, which is led by Ben Sobchak, our chief legal officer. And we sort of handle that world together. I was formerly an in-house counsel in a variety of other roles, which I'm sure we'll jump into in a minute. And so been a really corporate generalist. So bringing that kind of broad expertise to any type of things that might arise in a nascent world called legalized cannabis.
Right.
And the other side of my role is the social equity piece, which is this really kind of like flowery amoeba concept. It's become a term of art in the cannabis space. But social equity, if I were to like really sum it up in one sentence, I say it is that I'm the conscience and the compass for our company. And it doesn't mean that the buck stops with me, so to speak, but in me sort of taking this under my helm, I've got a lot of experience in the DEI or diversity, equity, inclusion space from a variety of service roles, bar service roles, such as the Wolverine Bar Association in Michigan, American Bar Association, national level, et cetera. And bringing that into the space of social equity, because I know we'll break it down, but we know cannabis is not a, quote, new industry. It's just new illegal. And it comes with a complicated history, from the war on drugs and criminalization. And so really, when you think about social equity, it's about really trying to level the playing field to right the wrongs of the past and rebalance the scales. And that comes from a variety of angles, which I'm sure we'll get a chance to break down.
Well, let's get into that. So give the viewers and listeners some of your history, where you're from, and what got you to where you are today.
Oh, great question, Ben. So once upon a time, a long time ago. So a little bit about my history. I am a native Detroiter, born and raised. So I was born on the west side of Detroit, 7 Mile Lodge, for those that know the area well, originally from the east side prior to that. So this is home for me, definitely. And, I spent the majority of my life in the city of Detroit, and about to that point in time until I worked my way over to law school, went to Michigan State for undergrad as well as law school. So go green, all the Spartans out there. So I'm a super Spartan, finished up law school, and had a pretty diverse practice after that. So spent time at one of the largest law firms in the state, national law firm of Dickinson Wright. Spent years there and did the whole big law private practice thing. Then worked my way into in-house counsel roles. And in-house counsel roles are very unique. They're different. It's different when you're a lawyer and you've got one issue you handle for many clients versus you're now an employee in the company and you've got one client and all their issues. Everything that can arise, you deal with every single day.
Right.
So you live that with them. And so I got to do that both in the public sector and in the private space. It was with a publicly traded company called Horizon Global Corporation. They essentially were towing and trailing parts. That was a really beneficial experience because they were a multinational company and global, and got to do a number of things, both in the consumer facing end as well as what you call maybe wholesale or OEM in original equipment manufacturing on the auto space. And I'll come back to why that makes sense here in the cannabis space, because we do both right now as well. Then I moved on to another large tier 1 auto supplier in Mala, and they do work in the sort of HVAC space and some other tier 1 components. After doing this variety of these roles, I made my way over to Plesantrees last year. I mentioned our chief legal officer. He and I go way back from our Dickinson Wright days, and we've always just stayed in close contact. And when an opportunity presented itself, he said, "Hey, we got a chance to do something here," and the legal side, of course, matters, right? Because as you mentioned, here I'm in-house counsel. through our intel, and this was very humbling for me to learn, my stepping into Pleasantrees made me the first Black in-house counsel of a major Michigan cannabis manufacturer. Something I don't take lightly, right?
Yeah.
And here we are in 2021, still having firsts. But it's appropriate in such a quote newly legal industry, and so I'm thankful for that. But I don't want to be the last, right? I want to continue to allow and create opportunity, and that's where the other side of this role came in social equity, where it was a chance to say, hey, let's what work can you do in rebalancing the scales, and do it from a genuine standpoint. So I always give kudos, to our team, starting with our CEO, Randy, and working his way down through the entire organization, that frankly, they empower me through my leadership and purview that we collectively, sort of attack these goals. First and foremost, by understanding, you got to humbly accept that we aren't doing enough, probably. We aren't perfect. And that goes for everybody in this space, but it's, the war on drugs didn't happen overnight. And it's not going to be fixed and solved overnight. But if we all do our part, we can be, part of that change, that we want to see. And so, fast forward, here I am back now in the city of Detroit, where I was born and raised, which is awesome, where I live, back doing work in these communities. So it's really come full circle for me to be where I'm from and these roles, and to be able to do it in this capacity. Because for me, it's we know representation matters. Right. And I recognize that, it's kind of hard to be what you don't see. And so I get an opportunity, humbly, to actually serve as that for hopefully some other folks out there. The sidebar, I'm also a law professor at Wayne State Law School.
Wow.
And so I teach the corporate counsel externship colloquium. And, I had an excellent conversation with my students recently, who said, he said, so you're my first Black professor that I've had in my whole law school tenure this far. Which again, like super humbling, but, he said, thank you for just being here. Thank you just for being you, which, that's an honor, but I don't want to rest on those laurels, right? I don't want to say, hey, I'm here, I'm arrived, right? It's what do you do? What do you do with the platform? You've got the platform. How do you move the needle forward, and how do you push it forward meaningfully?
The so the company is white owned, and you said is the first Black man inside the legal department at a white-owned cannabis company.
Yeah.
And what is the significance of that? I mean, I would like you to talk about it. I certainly have an opinion. I think it's great, but I'd like you to talk about really the importance of that and why we need more in the industry.
The importance of it is in part, it's about visibility. Right. And here we are on the heels of having finished Black History Month, which we realize Black history really is American history, should be celebrated every day throughout the year, and that there is no American history without Black history. And then all the warts and the complications that come with that, especially here in the United States. So I think the visibility is the first piece, right? Because the fact you can actually say that there was always a first of somebody somewhere. Here we are with our first, woman vice president, and also one that is a Black woman as well, among other affiliations. So it's powerful to be that representative. But I think it's back to a point, if we really to break that down a little bit more, Ben, is that you can't just, in my opinion at least, just say, here, I'm that person to sit in the seat.
Right.
You got to do more. And by do more, for me personally, in part, it's lifting as I climb. So it's one of my mantras I live by, and I make it a point that, if I'm in a seat and opportunity, if there's a chance for me to pull somebody else up, whether directly, of course, in the legal space, whether it's, opening doors in our pipeline, our hiring, where we're getting more, minority talent into the pipeline, which helps get into the company, gets them access, right, to the value of this industry. Those are all things I get to do from my platform. And that's if I take it seriously and I meaningfully approach it. Another thing is, and this is just sort of a salute to our company, to Plesantrees. I don't know if we all even appreciated, my team or myself, when I was coming in, like, hey, this is going to make you the first of something. Nothing anybody ever did, but a willingness to then embrace it once we learned it. Sometimes people, I think we try to shun away from issues that are, well, let's not talk about the racial issue sort of thing. We don't want to look like we're being, pulling aside here. It's not about that. You use this as a positive, right? And a positive beacon, because for us, we recognize our reach is our reach. We'll do the best we can every day and keep striving, understanding every day we finish, there was more to do and we could have done more. And that keeps us humble and it keeps us hungry. But if we get a chance to, frankly, be a leader among our peers, to help inspire and encourage more change, and someone else say, we're going to go. We've never had someone that was the, say, head of our retail that was a minority in this space. Let's go get that, because it takes intentionality. You know, and when you want to make change, you can't just say, you know, one of the funniest things we often hear, and again, I've worked at, you know, let's call it ultra white mega law firms where I'm looking around the room and I don't see any of me. Right. I also went to Michigan State, you know, not uncommon. I sit in a lecture hall and be like, there's one over there. Right.
Yeah.
So you're used to that type of thing.
Yeah.
But if you want to make meaningful change, you want to say, I want to be part of the change, you got to intentionally say, hey, I'm actually trying to specifically say, go get minority talent. I want Black and brown talent just even walking through the door. And that takes a little bit of ownership to say, you know what? Hey, we got a post out there somewhere. Yeah, we're getting stuff in Indeed, but I know there's other talent, you know, somewhere. And that's something that our team has done through relationships and saying, hey, you know, we've got a post, but who knows people in certain networks? You want to make sure you're really getting a diverse pool of folks to even assess in the first place. And that's how you create a bit of a snowball effect and just keep going forward. So in my opinion, it's very meaningful, and definitely love your thoughts on that too, Ben. I think it's meaningful.
Well, I would just, you know, that last point that you said, and that's a very eloquent and amazing, you know, answer to that question. So thank you. Why isn't there a bigger talent pool of minorities to pull from?
You know, that's a great question. And so I think it's a bit of in part, it's a misnomer, in my opinion, at least. And in part, it goes back to the intentionality aspect. So one, and there was an article on this in the last few years, it wasn't the only one, but one at least I recall in particular in the legal circles. And it was about, why can't we find like good Black talent, like law students, to get into the schools?
Yeah.
You can, but where are you going to get it? Are you intentionally going to get it? I'll give you an example about intentionality. The Wolverine Bar Association, which is the oldest legal guild of bar service here in the state of Michigan. It's over 100-year organization. I had the honor to be the president of the organization a couple of years ago after serving the board of directors for years. They run a program called the Summer Clerkship Program. That program specifically places students that are members of the organization, generally minority students, Black and brown law students, in some of the largest firms and companies in the state of Michigan. Now, to make that happen, it gives them an internship. It takes each of these schools, each of these organizations saying, yes, we want to participate in that program to specifically get talent in. We know that talent's there. So I think that's part of the reason there's a misnomer, is because it's about where you're looking at. If you keep looking at the same places, frankly, some places have inherent biases. Not everybody's got technology access, and you're thinking about Indeed, you know, for posting every single job. You already are carving out a part of the population that frankly is never going to see the job, or may not even have the wherewithal and the means to apply for it, you know, in the second place. So, you know, I think we got to kind of break down that misnomer. So why aren't they there? And then the other part of it, frankly, you know, you're right. In part, Ben, the reason they aren't there is that there is a disproportionately lower number of available talent. Right. I mean, if you only got X% of your law school, you know, class populations that say are Black, right, or, you know, or say Asian students, it's just less available, right? But it doesn't mean that there aren't any available. You know, they're just going to be proportionally a bit different. But I think if you get back, it's probably going to be the redundant, broken record word of the day we use here, intentionality. If you mean it and you put the effort behind it, you know, that's how you start to make the change. It doesn't immediately mean that, yeah, everybody comes in the door is going to be one way and stuff. But if you actually take the meaningful steps there, you can do some powerful stuff.
You know, one thing that I talk about a lot is taking action. I mean, you can know something and you can be something, but unless you take action on that, it doesn't really matter. And it would be the same thing in your position. You'd say, I'm the first, yay. But, you know, you need to take action with intent to make stuff happen. So
you got to take action. I mean, far too often, I think we get satisfied with arrival. We go, I'm here, or that's both an individual and an organizational thing, and we all struggle with it. And it's hard to stay hungry, which I think the best thing you do is just stay humble and realize, like, stay forward looking, right? Realize that even if you've made great strides, there's always more to do.
Yeah, I mean, and if you're hungry, you realize you'll never make it. You're never there, because once you get there, there's more you want to do, and you keep going. So
bingo, 100%.
Good stuff. Well, I've got a second question for you here. You know, we were talking about marijuana criminalization. And we talked a little bit about disproportion earlier. Can you talk about that, about really marijuana and kind of where we've been and where we are today?
Yeah, that's an awesome question, Ben. First, I just like to lay this foundational premise out, because I think it says a lot about what we stand for at Plesantrees. You know, simply put, in our view, cannabis should have never been illegal in the first place. Never. And holding that, and if you really believe that, then that should really steer and guide how you move and all you do. As I mentioned, and I think we all know, we like to keep saying marijuana is newly legal. It's not new though, right? It's been around for a really long time in what you might call the traditional or illicit market. We frankly try to stop using the term black market for a lot of connotation reasons. But the point is that when you realize that it's been around for a while, you also realize it comes with a complicated past and history. Now, our world and society has actually lived this in part before. Think about prohibition of alcohol. Now, many of us probably weren't alive to actually experience that. However, if we were, and you sprinkle in a little bit of social media and technology advancement and just a dab of a thing called war on drugs, which was racially motivated to Black and brown communities, then you might get what we're seeing happen today when you peel back the layer of, quote, new legalization. So the further irony, and I think this gets into why the concept of social equity is essential and matters, is that, let's be honest, there's a host of reasons we know that minority communities are, let's call it, a little bit behind the 8 ball when it comes to having resources available and socioeconomic status, et cetera, et cetera. But specifically, at least one of those reasons when you think about the cannabis industry is that you've created this contemporary situation where the actual war on drugs that was used, and this is well documented, in ways to further oppress Black and brown communities is specifically in part the reason now why these same communities can't participate in that legalized industry, which used to be prohibited. So it literally has created like this kind of vicious cycle that comes around in a negative full circle, right? So, we're in a unique space and a unique opportunity where how many of us actually get to live a, quote, new industry that's coming out in front of us? Like, this is really monumental and really just we're living history of that every day. But when you get to do it and you watch like, oh, it ain't that new. It's actually been around for a long time. And, we got to take and I think accept the complicated history, the difficult history, the painful history, and not walk around with a sense of guilt by any means. But, especially if you're an operator in the space, but I think you walk around with a sense of, obligation, sense of duty. And it's incumbent on us to be part of that change, right? No one company can solve it all. No one organization can solve it all. But what can you do from a unique vantage point to actually be part of sort of making that change? Because there's no question that criminalization and the war on drugs has been devastating and still is. And one note I'll make on this as well, Ben, is that, and part of what we believe, I know a lot of others similarly situated us believe it too, is that there's two different things. Social equity, in the way a lot of people think of it, is about creating opportunities, right? Creating access, lowering barriers for those that are disparately impacted. The other part of it is this legislation's advocacy part, criminal justice reform. Those are separate issues. And frankly, you can totally believe that every person that is behind bars for something that is now illegal should be out yesterday. Right. And we believe that because, again, that would be contradictory of us, that'd be hypocritical. When we say cannabis should never have been legal in the first place. Right. Well, then naturally, we also believe that those that are locked up right now should be out yesterday. And in part, when we do, and that we'll get into a little more, I'm sure, is why we work with organizations such as Last Prisoner Project, which is, advocating for the release of the 40,000 or so folks that are still, in prison. We had, Michael Thompson, who was the longest serving nonviolent offender here in the state of Michigan, served 25 years, just, was granted clemency, just released here in the last month or so. And, those are the ones that make headlines and we're so excited for Michael and those that also get it, but there's so many more rather that we need to keep fighting for and keep fighting for that criminal justice reform and that change, because that's the part that when you think about families that have been devastated, been ravaged, they're not just thinking about economic opportunity. They're thinking about a friend or family member that's still locked up. Right. And that's the stuff that we can't lose sight of when we're so focused on the industry. We're so focused on this other part. We got to keep, the pressure on that part to make sure that those changes happen there too.
Well, let's talk about the Plesantrees and really what you are doing to support. I'd like to know more about that Last Prisoner Project and then what you're doing really to support the communities around where you are.
No, that's an awesome question. Ben, I'm excited to unpack that. It's in part the timing is good.
There's a lot in there, I know.
There's a lot, but I'll try to do my best at giving you our guiding light focus and how we, there's so much to do that I think if you don't organize your thoughts and your direction, you'll just get lost in the fray of, well, we want to do this and do that. And there's a lot of things that are good to do, but you only got so much bandwidth. You want to be targeted. So we are giving you our premise about how we feel about cannabis. Never should have been, made illegal. We know there's a problem. We're going to do something about it to be part of the change. The first part we look at before we do anything is we look at ourselves and say, look in the mirror. We can do better, right? All of us individually as a company, even though we're a startup, even though we are just now putting in place a lot of these things ourselves functions and as a company, that's no excuse, right? The moment we decide to get into business, we're going to continue to try to make those efforts. So we separate, the work we do and call it 4 foundational pillars of our social equity plan. The social equity plan is one that, we've had some foundational pieces. Since my coming on board a few months ago, we're starting to refine that more, and we're excited. We're going to actually be releasing that publicly here in the coming weeks very soon. But our social equity plan is espousing 4 foundational pillars. First one is access to value chain. Second one is education. The third is legislation and advocacy. And the fourth one is good neighbor. And the latter one is when we talk about some of the work, in the community we'll do. To give you kind of a quick snapshot in each one of those means is the access to value chain. What that means is giving, folks that are disparately impacted in communities that have been, disparately targeted, ravaged by this war on drugs, by criminalization, a chance to participate in the industry. Now, to do that for us, we've got to look at our unique platform. We're a vertically integrated seed to sell cannabis company. So while we may not have a need for, cultivation support because we grow our own and supply our own stores, well, what are we going to look at? What are our immediate low-hanging fruit are hiring practices. So that's one thing since I've come in is finding ways to reevaluate that. Hoping to create some partnership with organizations such as 70 Million Jobs, which if you heard of that, 70 Million Jobs is an organization that was created for the 70 million, folks in America that actually have a criminal background. And one of the biggest issues that people have as far as being a re-entering citizen is not finding gainful employment. And that causes recidivism. It's a huge issue. So we're trying to be intentional about that. And I mean, candidly, if you've got a cannabis conviction, it's not necessarily a scarlet letter in this industry. At least it shouldn't be like it might be. You want to work a plant job at a Ford or GM, or maybe somebody somewhere else where they go, we're not so sure about that. For us, we kind of welcome that because that's our way of paying it forward. That's access to value chain. And it's beyond just, people that have got the criminal background, right? Somebody that, just comes from minority communities, that's one of our key ways that we're looking and reevaluating some of our hiring practices to do what? Get more intentional, that broken record word. Second piece is education. That one is everything from, creating job skills, life skills for the employees that come in, right? Because when you give somebody a full-time position that maybe never had benefits before in the first time in their life, they're learning a job and hopefully some type of skill and a trade that is now a new industry. This may be something that they can grow and then create a platform for themselves, for their family, for the generations to come, because we know cannabis is here to stay. Right. And especially now that it's a legal industry. So, that's education for us internally. And we also pair that with external education. Destigmatizing cannabis users, cannabis culture, the community. There's so much that's said about there that's just not true, because that was part of criminalization efforts, right? Was to create a negative stigma around it. So that's another part of the way in which we use education as part of our social equity plan, that second pillar. Third pillar, legislation and advocacy. We've touched on a little bit of this already, but that's again working with your groups like your Last Prisoner Project. That's supporting elected officials, actual pieces of legislation that are going to actually help create change. You had I think it was the Clean Slate Act, I believe, that the state of Michigan brought not too long ago. Where you're changing expungement. And one thing we're excited to do, we're excited to announce it soon. It's a little early, but we'll give you the sneak peek. Is our hope is to do a lot more work in the expungement fair type of know your rights circles this year in 2021 as we roll out our social equity plan. I myself have done a ton of work with organizations such as Lakeshore Legal Aid, our State Bar of Michigan, in doing expungements. I've been honored to do them for close people in my life, and so that is a game changer. And a lot of reasons people don't get expungements, they don't even know. The process feels daunting, it feels difficult, and they may qualify. And it's really a statutory process. And especially now that the law has changed, the bar is even lower for people to go and get those expungements, get things off their records. So that's another part of legislation and advocacy that we'll be focusing on. And the fourth piece to bring it full circle, Ben, is the good neighbor aspect. And simply put, what that means is support communities that support us. So when we go into a community, we sit here now, and this is the low hanging fruit that people talk about a lot. And it's not to minimize it by any means. We still do it because it matters. We do the other things too because we know there's more, right? But this is the part when you hear about you made donations somewhere, you made contributions, you give back in a direct way. So for example, Michigan State, we're in East Lansing rather, was our first retail store we launched last year. We just launched an MSU scholarship. Just about a month or so ago. We're going to give out 10 $500 book scholarships to MSU students. We also paired in criteria from the MRA in Michigan, which says these are the disparately impacted communities. So we're saying you come from these same communities. We're actually trying to be intentional about who would get those proceeds, and also coming from historically underrepresented ethnic minority groups that are in higher education. So we're pairing all that together. And another example would be in Hamtramck. We had our second store there. We came into this community, and we were actually the first recreational adult use, marijuana establishment to come into Hamtramck. And frankly, talking about south of 8 Mile, we think about Detroit, Detroit cannabis, it's all medical. You just announced that, and Hamtramck's an interesting city because it's like a suburb surrounded by Detroit proper. And so knowing our unique place and position, we really took it upon ourselves to make sure we ingratiate ourselves with the community, that we find meaningful ways to give back, everything from giving out gift baskets to our neighbors when we came in the community. The building we renovated had been defunct for 20 years. And cool enough, our chief security officer, Eric Mack, his grandparents got married at that building. So it was really cool to bring that forward. And his family also was able to donate the original Joseph Campos sign, back to the city. So, those are just a few examples of when we're in a place, be a good neighbor. Be good in the community, forge a relationship with the firefighters, like we're going and they're going to be supporting them on a raffle coming up in Hamtramck. And so it just matters. And that's the stuff I think that makes more news in the headlines. Not that it shouldn't, right? Because it's important, but writing checks, like our CEO likes to say, writing checks is good, right? And that's something you should do. Use your resources, but can we do more? And that's where I think about those first 3 pillars in particular, and it really kind of creates this foursome of things in the way in which we try to attack the social equity issue.
And what I like about everything you said is you're not just kind of in the community, you're of the community. You're a part of the community for many years to come, and you're building all around you, and it's moving out from there. If after this, what you could do is put links to all of the projects you're working on. I'd love for the viewers and listeners to check those out. I mean, they're amazing programs, and more people should be doing what you're doing. As you said earlier in the first question, really a beacon and shining light on issues, on the company, on what you're doing. And there need to be more of you who are doing what you're doing.
No, I appreciate that, Ben. But I often come back to this, and we stay humble. We recognize that we can be doing more. We need to do more, and we're going to keep striving to do that. And so, I think that goes for everybody. Is you have the sense of ownership, in your position, and saying, all right, let's humbly own it, right? Not just tout ourselves, right? Because we don't want to ever look like we're tooting our horn. We want to be part of the solution, right? Not part of the problem. And look, I always joke about this. If you create a quote unquote arms race of operators and people trying to out social equity each other, that's actually okay. You know why? Because people that get blessed in the long run, people that end up being the benefit and the recipients of those efforts. We're going to outgive a scholarship. Hey, awesome. Great. It's more money. Right. So,
that's a healthy competition for sure.
Bingo.
Good stuff. Well, how can people get a hold of you if they want to learn more, just talk to you about more stuff? I mean, we could talk for a couple more hours. You've got a wealth of information. How do they get a hold of you? What's the website of the company, and maybe your email as well?
Yeah, it's great for sure. So if you want to check out our company, check us out at www.enjoyplesantrees.com. That's pleasantries, just like my shirt says right here. So pleasantrees with no I, and enjoyplesantrees.com. We've also got various social media handles. Check us out. We're on your Facebook and LinkedIn at Plesantrees. But check us out on Instagram in particular at pleasantrees.official or pleasantrees.grown if you want to see our cultivator and check out some of the cool stuff that's happening there. It's a 50,000 square foot cultivation operation. And if you've never seen one, it's pretty fascinating to see what that looks like. So those are great ways to find us. Find me. You can find me on LinkedIn. Email is jc@enjoypleasantrees.com. So you can also feel free to get in contact with me as well. And always excited to further the conversation, excited to build, to network. In my opinion, your network is your net worth. And so, it's everything doesn't have to be transactional. I had a great meeting yesterday with some guys on the west side of the state, and it wasn't about what are we going to do to invest. This is man, if I can be a resource of information and vice versa, let's do that, right? Because we all are the better for it, and truly iron sharpens iron.
That's right. Awesome. Well, what are you looking forward to in this next year? Let's go out 12 months. What are you really looking forward to after this past year of COVID, but more where do you want to go? Not where we've been, but where do you want to go?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, one immediate thing we're looking forward to just struck me right now is we're doing an incredible sale this Saturday at our store. So East Lansing, Hamtramck, check us out.
Right.
That's going to be pretty awesome. So definitely check us out. Our biggest sale like we've ever done before, bigger than our Black Friday sale. So check out the website, give you all the details on that. But incredible discounts there. But back to your point about what we're looking forward to, even more forward looking. Sure, it's becoming a bigger brand and growing your network and finding more customers. I mean, it's all the obvious stuff.
Yeah.
I think for us is one, we're looking forward to a lot of the work that we get a chance to do is we say in the community is in person. So that's everything from your social good component, like frankly, as we do well, make sure we continue to do good. So actually being able to physically go out, maybe if we're doing stuff where we're like giving, baskets out or giving out food, to families in need, that type of thing. Love to engage in that. The actual expungement fairs to like these, if anyone's ever been to one, I mean, it's huge, right? It's like everybody's coming in at one time to be there to personally interact with folks. I think is something we're looking forward to. We're also looking forward to larger events. So some of the work we do is event-based, in the community. It's not just a give back event, but like you got your pop-up events that happen in the cannabis spaces. Those type of things will be really cool to do. Your music festivals and whatnot that we're looking forward to sponsoring in 2020, but never happened, right? That type of thing. So, if I sum that up, looking forward to going outside again, right? Because when we can go outside again, man, we got a chance to do some really cool things, some enriching things, kind of with each other. And we think about Plesantrees and you look at our website, those check us out. We say that, that the life's pleasantries are meant to be enjoyed together. Right. I mean, that's what our brand is. That's what the essence of us is. When you think about it from a genuine standpoint, is we are uniters, not dividers. And we want to be about bringing people together and bring people together, frankly, through the power of cannabis culture, cannabis community, through educating, obviously through consumer, through use, So I think getting back to that point in the next 12 months of togetherness is something we're definitely looking forward to.
Oh, great. Awesome. That was really, really good. Thank you for your time. A lot of great stuff there. So I look forward to talking to you again and have a great day.
Likewise, man. Really appreciate you having us. And thank you for having me here on the show to be able to represent Plesantrees. So it's been an absolute honor.
You bet. All right. Talk to you soon.
Take care.